No, nothing for agenda review?
I'm sorry, I just got audio now. If I missed
Oh,
everything up to that, I apologize. No changes to the agenda.
okay. All right, moving on to agenda items. 5A is a conditional use permit request, CU 2424-22 by Jeff Schleicher, agent for Murphy's Creek LLC, to allow for a rural event venue use on property along Burn Road in Section 23, Lot 2, CSM 15004. Jeff, why don't we start? You want to give us a presentation on what you have planned?
Thank you for your time and consideration today. I think all of you know me. You're probably tired of seeing me. But this is my daughter-in-law, Erin.
Hi.
She'll actually be the one operating the actual facility. And my son, David, Erin's husband, couldn't be here yet. He's still at work and picking up the son. But so thanks for having us here. You've got all the materials in the CUP application, which hopefully explains a lot of what's going on. But very briefly here, I can just fill you in a little bit. Our vision started over 4 years ago as my 4 children all got married. And we witnessed a huge demand, but yet a huge shortage in supply at dedicated wedding venues, and a shortage that continues today. I have some farming roots, and Erin grew up in the country and has extensive event planning and marketing experience. So with that appreciation for rural Fitchburg, we felt this was a need that we could do something about, with Fitchburg being a great location with its mix of urban and rural areas. We met with city officials and staff early in the process to get their input, and this was followed by the community survey in conjunction with the update of the comprehensive plan. And the survey showed overwhelming support, over 93% favorable for a rural wedding venue. And thus the comprehensive plan included allowance for such a venue. And that was followed by the passage of the city ordinance this August, I believe it was, which created a conditional use permit process specifically for rural event venues. And we talked with and listened to neighbors and incorporated their input into the design we are bringing to you today. This has been a very long time in getting to this point, but it gave us lots of time to listen, to adjust, and get things right. And we think we've done it right with the help of everyone's input. We listened to the market and to the Fitchburg public that expressed a strong desire for an event venue. We listened to the fire department, who finds existing barns used for weddings to be a fire hazard and would like to see fire protection sprinkler systems. So we focused on new construction, and the plan incorporates an entire building sprinkler system and a driveway designed for the turnaround needs of the fire department's largest vehicle and direct access to 2 sides of the building. We listened to the public works staff and made sure our driveway had gentle slopes and parking had gentle slopes, ensuring ADA accessibility, and that the driveway was located for safe egress and ingress. Our engineers did the work to ensure there's proper stormwater management and erosion control. We listened to the planning department, who helped us make sure we complied with all the components of the rural event venue ordinance, and we exceeded minimum requirements, and all those details are within the CUP application itself. We listened to the economic and development department, who supports what this could do to enhance various businesses in Fitchburg, and we listened to appointed and elected committee members, and we added retail space and additional storage space for our crop production and retail sales business. And Mark, I cut back the vegetation along the railroad sight lines for you a couple times now. We listened to the neighbors and included in our plans a berm and plantings to the south, a hedge to the south of the parking lot. We eliminated large sliding patio doors to the west and designed the building to contain any noise. We also modified the closing time we had planned from midnight back to 11 o'clock p.m. on weekends. And on the rare occasion that there was a weekday event, it's 10 p.m. closing. We minimized the footprint and left over 95% of the property in woods and cropland. A rural event venue will be located on the 31-acre parcel on Burn Road you referenced, but will only have a footprint of less than 2 acres, with the remaining 29 acres remaining in woods and tilled acres, including growing areas immediately to the north and south of the facility for the crop production part of our business plan. The location is ideal with cropland, a railroad, and wetlands to the west, hills, trees, and cropland to the north, Highway 14 directly to the east, and by the way, Highway 14 provides ample white noise to the south. The driveway off Burn Road is on an outside of a gentle curve, providing excellent sight lines. The city transportation engineer concurred with its location and had no other traffic concerns at all. The parking and building are north of a 200-foot buffer with a berm and trees along the southern lot line and a hedge south of the parking. The building itself is approximately 11,000 square feet, designed to host wedding ceremonies, receptions, and other community and corporate events, and to also support the production and retail sale of agricultural products. The area will support a gravity-based standard septic system and drain field, and will have a dedicated well. The plans that you see in the cup show us a stable or a barn exterior style that will fit well within the rural setting, with views for the guest oriented to the west, overlooking farmland and wetlands, and adding a beautiful landmark to rural Fitchburg for anyone visiting or passing by. This project will preserve the rural character of the property and add a beautiful community asset for celebrating family events, Fitchburg community functions, and enhance rural tourism. It adds significantly to the Fitchburg tax base without a commensurate increase in costs. It helps support other Fitchburg businesses such as caterers, hotels, florists, transportation, and ride sharing, et cetera, and will provide employment opportunities for the neighborhood itself, which is unusual in the rural areas. The end result is a safe and beautiful structure that will enhance the neighborhood, preserve the rural nature of the area, and provide a beautiful environment for the celebration of life events and other community meetings, while increasing appreciation for the beauty and importance of rural Fitchburg. So I think we've done a good job of listening and addressing people's comments, and entertain questions and see what you have to say about this.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
We had one person who registered in support, Pat Kane, 5076 Burn Road. He stated, "I feel this venue addition in Fitchburg will stimulate the economy in a positive manner, as well as create jobs and other opportunities. The plans of the venue are also both attractive and accommodating." I didn't have any other public comment from this. Maybe you can tell us a bit, Jeff, about your conversations with neighbors. There generally is a neighborhood meeting held for this type of thing. I don't know whether that occurred or who you've spoken with.
Yeah, we went the route of attempting to contact every single neighbor in the surrounding area. I met with Mark Jones, for example. We were successful in talking to most everyone. There was one that didn't respond to any outreach. I would say it went from the expected questions they had about noise or traffic, et cetera. One asked about, was worried about what the impact was on wildlife, but as soon as I explained how little of the footprint we had, she didn't have any problem with that. It went from that to Patrick Kane, obviously our next door neighbor exactly to the west of us on the other side of the tracks. It was 110% support. Another individual said they liked the project, good luck with it. So that's kind of the range of the comments, and we listened and we tried to address that, as I mentioned just in my little presentation here, as to how we address some of their concerns about noise and traffic, and discussions with the traffic engineer and with the staff and what have you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Wade, do you want to give us a staff report?
Sure. And I'm just gonna work from the packet here. I'll share my screen. And Jeff, filled in a lot of the blanks, but I'll just try to add a little bit more detail.
Okay.
Again, I think the committee is familiar with, this project. Obviously, they spent a lot of time, or you guys spent a lot of time drafting that rural event venue ordinance, months back. Again, we're talking about a footprint of approximately 6 acres. We can look at the site plan in a bit. It is a new structure. And I think it's important to point out that, we do require an ag accessory use of the building, either ag retail or ag entertainment. And in terms of the application, the applicant has fulfilled that ag retail requirement, and we can certainly talk more about what that'll look like. Yeah, we're talking weddings, corporate events, community events. I think approximately, let's say 100-ish events per year, if I'm reading that right. Jeff did touch on the hours of operation. I think the expected capacity is around 200. I think max capacity is 300. We're requiring approximately 100 parking stalls, 96 stalls, based on that max capacity, and then some employees as well. And then, yeah, we're talking on a new 10,000 square foot structure, trying to the degree we can with new construction to fit into that kind of architectural vernacular in terms of appearance. And we can talk more about the building look as well. But we are recommending approval of the application. It is a conditional use permit application, so there are some additional things that reviewing bodies look at in terms of that CUP process. And then just quickly running through the conditions of the recommendation. Again, we talk about hours of operation. We will require a deed restriction on the property, basically saying that the property shall either remain a rural event venue into perpetuity or another use that is allowed in the Ag Small District. So that will go on the property. And then we also are requiring a right to farm statement, either on the deed or on a separate document that basically indemnifies all neighborhood farm operations. So this technically isn't a farming operation per se, but everyone else in that area has the right to continue to do their farming activity as they've been doing it. So, yeah, with that, again, can certainly take any questions or comments that committee might have. And maybe now I'll just quickly go to the site plan. And Jeff, you can certainly fill in the blanks here too, but essentially we're talking, again, a 31-acre parcel off of Burn Road. This is kind of the larger parcel, and then the event venue layout. So we got a driveway coming in. We've got a buffer from Burn Road per the ordinance. We've got parking, and then we've got the facility itself. And we also do have a floor plan of the facility if we want to dig into that a little bit. I do want to point out the ag retail area is kind of in this area here. Again, the idea is to sell crops produced on site seasonally. And my understanding is there will be storage available as well for machinery required to do that.
Yeah, that would be in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay, yep. So with that, yeah, certainly we can, the committee can, where we can dig into this as the committee sees fit, so.
Randy?
I'd like to circle back to traffic. I've had two constituents reach out to me, and I don't believe either one of the constituents was asking to place it on record. However, traffic came up in both, and just from my own experience with venues similar to yours, when parking became an issue, they would shuttle the guest in. I noticed that you have 96 parking stalls, maximum capacity of 300. Granted, all 300 don't have individual cars, but is your overflow parking on site? Is it somewhere else? Or I guess, as an additional thought, shuttling may be an option if the traffic becomes too heavy in that area, just to keep things calm and quiet. What are your thoughts on, I'm sure you put some.
Yeah, we thought a lot about this, and
Yeah.
obviously, I'll speak, but Erin's got a lot of experience going to weddings over the last 10 years with her friends and everything. But what happens with a lot of weddings, or most weddings, is that obviously at a minimum, it's generally coming as couples. Then you have wedding parties coming in on some sort of shuttle basis. A lot of people use hotel shuttles if they're out of town and they're staying in a hotel. A lot of people just take Uber or ride sharing to and from weddings. So it's very, very unlikely that you'd ever have even a 2-to-1 ratio. It's more going to be 3-to-1 or less. And then if you consider the capacity of 300, a 3-to-1 ratio gives you the 100. So that's kind of where we were with the thought process. Overflow parking, it would not be suitable at all to park on Burn Road. So
Correct.
our overflow parking will be north of the 200-foot buffer and to the left or the west of the driveway that you see to the north of the 200-foot buffer.
So overflow would be on the property line?
On property, yeah.
Not on either road?
No.
Cyene or Burn, okay.
No.
Just want to make that
Yep.
clear. And I know this came up as a question when we were discussing, the ordinance itself. So I just want to make it clear as to
Yep.
that it could be a potential issue, and you've thought through it,
Yep.
and there are some remedies if necessary.
Yep.
Yep. Very good, thank you.
Other questions or discussion? Raj?
What has driven you to particularly select this location?
Its proximity to the urban area and services such as hotels, caterers, et cetera. That was definitely an advantage. I think the fact that it was fairly protected and secluded, it was relatively easily accessible. It was, its topography was such that there was some elevation to it, which created a nice view, if I can say that, from where the property would be constructed. Those were some of the primary issues.
You say that it's easily accessible, the whole project. What do you support that statement with?
Well,
Excuse me.
it's okay. There are various ways of getting to the property. I would guess that most people might start with a trek down Highway 14 and possibly get off the McCoy or Cyene Road exit, possibly go down Cyene. They also have the choice of coming down County MM, coming in from the east, if they were so inclined. If they were staying in hotels in Fitchburg, you have one hotel on Fish Hatchery, a couple more towards over the Nesbitt area, and it would be an easy trek as well from those hotels to the facility.
Okay.
Further discussion?
I only have one question, is how close are you to Highway 14? As far
It's literally just on the other side of the eastern lot line. So,
I'm just, and that hasn't been, you don't feel that's any issue at all with traffic noise or a buffer for sound or anything?
well, it's probably a detriment to us in some respects. I mean, if there's outdoor ceremonies, there will be some noise that we have to contend with, but I think it probably
And
serves
I
as the
just-
white noise that I
I'm
talk.
just curious as to how much woodland there is on that property too, to the north there?
Yeah, it's the northeast corner has some woods to it. I don't know if there's a larger map, Wade, even larger than that. I can't remember what was exactly in there.
Oh, I see.
Further on, I think if you get to some of the other,
Which you've probably looked at that as being appropriate for
yeah, look,
hay rides or whatever, or trails through there for,
it's possible. I think,
It
we were
is large
thinking
enough for
in
that?
terms of photo ops, actually. There's a chance for
right.
there, but the intent would be to have some access to the property with some trails going through there.
yeah, and that's really,
That map at the top there, Wade. Yeah. There are three, well, actually, there's four primary fields. You can see the larger field to the southwest has been rotated between corn and soybeans, as well as the wider, long field just to the north of that, and then a shorter field to the farthest northwest corner. Those have all been rotated. Then you can kind of see the open area to the northeast, and then down the eastern side that has trees in it and some open areas, and then there's just kind of trees around the whole perimeter. But there's actually some natural areas for some trails in that northeast corner, as it.
yeah, I did look at it at
Yeah.
home, and I thought that there was a fair amount there to
Yep.
deal with, but and the only other thing I had to say is that, appreciate your, all the time you've put into this, and it looks like you've really thought through a lot and done a very good job on design and the landscaping and all of that. That's all I really have.
Well, thank you. Certainly tried to.
Well, I appreciate all the effort you've put in it.
Randy?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, George, you had mentioned about the 14 and as far as noise, and Jeff, you had mentioned it could be to somewhat of a detriment to your facility or venue, but it sounds like you've taken every effort to avoid the noise going to the west or to the north, and based on what I can see in the packet, and also you had mentioned the conversation you had with Mark, eliminating a patio door. I'm assuming that has to do with, so the noise, because that's where the residents live, to the west of your, venue. So,
To the south.
to the south, but you also have the Greenfield area. I see to the west.
Yeah, that's quite a ways over.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised how much noise, and I think that's where the concern is coming from. Yeah, granted, if the wind's coming from the west, it's not going to be. 14 is going to be interrupting it. I think every direction around it, let's include the south, there could be an issue with noise. It sounds like you've taken all of that into consideration, and if anything, projected it towards the 14. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's, well,
If you
obviously,
wanna
it's
call
not
it
like we
projected.
necessarily projected noise to 14, but we're closer to 14 than any other border, because
Correct.
there wasn't a 200-foot buffer
Right.
along a highway required, and it didn't make any sense. There was no purpose. We'd rather see those 200 feet to the west. I guess, where-
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
By eliminating the door, to me, that sounded like great suggestion, and if that door is to the west, if that door were open, that noise is not going to travel out and to the west.
Right, no, and that was, I
And
mean,
that's where the emails that I received, the constituents were from the west.
yeah. And it wasn't, I don't even know that we got a recommendation to remove the door. It was on our plans, and as we heard and talked to people, we said, well, let's just eliminate it.
Yeah, well, I guess that would be a
Yeah.
recommendation from somebody that's
Yeah,
astute. Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Raj?
Jeff, I'd like to circle around and come back to the neighborhood meeting.
Yep.
My concept of a neighborhood meeting has been, a notice has gone out. And then it's usually a meeting where everybody comes to hear what you've got to say. I have a question about that procedure, and because of the precedents that I'm aware of. But Jeff, how big a radius around this did you talk to the people? I mean, where they're just directly, the homes that are across the street from there, the ones across from the railroad track, how big an area did you cover? And how do you feel that you got a fair reading of what these people are thinking?
We made sure that we reached out to anyone within 300 feet of the facility. So I was able to talk to all four, I should say, yeah, the 4 homes south of Burn Road. Talked to Mark on the north, talked to 2 on the west. East of Highway 14, there's nobody within 300 feet, just the right-of-way itself. You know, so we kind of didn't approach the east just because of the highway there.
Well, so you've arbitrarily taken a 300-foot,
Well, no, I think it was per
That's the notice.
ordinance,
is that the notice reason? Okay.
yeah.
And that's kind of the problem, is 300 feet isn't very far when you're out in the country. But, so the road, the homes that are along Burn Road
Yep,
going toward 14, did you reach out to all of them?
yes,
Okay.
yep.
All right, I want to express my concerns with regard to this application. I am opposed to it. There are some things that we have to find in order to approve a conditional use. And I don't think that this request meets some of those things, and I want to go through specifically what they are. There are 6 items that need to be met, and I think item 1, 2, and 5 are problematic. Item 1, we would need to find that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will not be detrimental or endanger the public health or safety. I don't like this location on Burn Road. It's a small, rural road. There's not a huge amount of traffic on it. It's far better off that way. The road winds. There's a bridge that you have to go under. There's a railroad track that you have to cross over. The opportunities for problems on that road, especially after people have been drinking, are enormous. So aside from the noise issue, which I would think that more neighbors would be concerned about, although there's no one here. This will be at Planning Commission tonight also, perhaps someone will be there. I just think it's the wrong place for this type of a venue. You know, and I think that the same goes, item number 2, that we'd have to find the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted. And I would think that there would be noise conflicts with something like this. I think there are homes in that area, and I would be concerned about those conflicts as well. And number 5 refers to minimizing traffic congestion in the public streets. Well, like I've already said, this is just not the road to put a venue like this on. A venue like this could be a good fit on a county highway, on something that is built for this kind of traffic, that can handle this kind of traffic. I don't think the city wants to put a bunch of money into improving Burn Road, and I think this would be very poorly placed at that location, so I'm in opposition to this.
Can I address some of those?
Sure.
Okay. Actually, we thought of all those, and that's why we did talk to the transportation engineer who had no problems with it. I would actually suggest that coming in and out of a facility like this is a lot safer onto a road like Burn Road than it is a county highway where you have a lot of traffic going at fast speeds. So in that respect, I would suggest this is actually a safer location than a county highway. I think there's actually not that many events and that many cars over the course of a year-long period of time in a venue like this, not just ours, anybody's venue.
You're projecting 100 events, correct?
Yes, they come
About
in.
75 weddings and about 25.
Yeah, and I would suggest that the weddings is where the focus will be, and whether the other 25 events happen or not, I don't know, and they'll probably be smaller. But So, yeah, you have a number of cars that come in before the wedding. The traffic's over in a half hour, and then after a dinner, then your guests gradually leave over a period of time. And there isn't, I understand the concern, but I don't think, if you think through it, the number of cars involved are really that much over a period of a year's time, over a week. It's only 1 or 2 days a week.
Is there anyone else from the public? I see someone just entered. This isn't a public hearing, but if anyone from the public would like to speak, if you want to, you can fill out a slip to speak in the back and bring it up.
That's what I thought tonight is going to be at 6:30.
Yes, correct.
Plan commission is tonight.
Yep, Plan Commission.
This is Ag and Rural.
Yep.
I have
Hey,
some
hey.
comments.
Okay, Mark.
I have some comments, and I have some questions. Originally, when we talked about this, I believe the plan was to put it further to the north in the untilled area, which would then save more agricultural land. And it's basically in the middle, or on the edge of a cropped area. So that's taking that croppable land totally out of production forever. I have an issue with that. I did talk to the, on another note, the ambivalent or enthusiastic. Just a question, which was I?
Well,
I certainly wasn't ambivalent, and I don't believe I was enthusiastic.
yeah, no, you weren't enthusiastic.
So anyway, that's just.
Yeah.
I did speak with the engineer from Mr. McFadden, I think his name
Yeah.
was,
Right.
today, and I asked him the question, what they considered. And he said they considered the egress, in placing the driveway, they considered where it should be placed. And they did not do a study on the road as far as the condition of the road, the traffic on the road. They did not address that at all, according to my conversation.
I don't think they did, no.
Today. So that is another concern I have. Had they done something, a traffic study, for example, I think we may have a clearer picture. When you go to the east, on either side of the road, it's a narrow road and it's dangerous. On the north side of the road, the ditch is very, very deep, and if you get off at all, it sucks you in real quick. On the south side, you have the swamp. This summer, there were 6 accidents where vehicles had to be towed off of that stretch of road. This summer only, not slippery conditions. This summer, there were 6, according to one of the neighbors that I spoke with. I did not reach out to any neighbors pertaining to this, but I had 4 other neighbors reach out to me. And I think they'll be here at the Plan Commission meeting. I invited them to make sure that they could come here. There are several things. You don't spell it out, but I would think that impervious blacktop, if this were approved, impervious blacktop would be a requirement that I hope that they would have made. I also spoke with Fitchburg PD, Police Department today, and asked if they had been contacted or had any input into this. And the spokesman I talked to today said, to his knowledge, they had not been contacted, and they tried to stay as neutral as they could, but they are very concerned about the traffic on Burn Road. And we talked at length about whichever way you go on Burn Road, leaving your driveway, you have a uncontrolled train crossing, which is a limited use one, but it's the only one in the city of Fitchburg that has no stop sign. everyone else, even private ones, have stop signs. That one has no stop signs. And there's nothing addressed in your proposal to deal with that, or make a recommendation for that, or ask for that. So if you go to the east, we talked about the problems to the east. We also had talked about, you and I had talked about, how I felt that it would be a good part of your proposal to see if you could purchase any of the existing houses, which would cut down the existing complaint basis. And there's nothing in there to addressing that. The thought of that, they may not have been available, I don't know. But that certainly would cut down the complaint basis, and you should be able to reap the benefits and have the negatives of that site by having to live there. If it were approved, and we talked about the noise and the lights will affect us. Also, another thing that will affect us, and this is per my insurance company, when I reached out to them. So what does that do to my liability if I allow Ed and his son-in-law to come over and hunt pheasants or deer hunt? And my insurance company said, if you allow that, I say, Ed, you're free to go and hunt anytime you want there. I am partially liable because I gave permission because of that event being that close. So that's a problem for me. And it will be a problem for the Canes. I know Pat has said it's in favor, but the land to the south, they will have to restrict it also. When you looked at the driveway, and I asked Public Works about this today, if you look at the one photo, I don't have it out, it is right here. When you look at this photo here,
Yeah.
where do the lights from the 100-plus cars coming down that driveway shine when they leave that driveway?
Be primarily the second house from the left there.
They will shine directly, because you're coming from up, coming down, they will shine directly into those two houses.
Yeah.
So I talked to Public Works, if there was any chance to move that driveway a little bit to the west, if it is approved. And they said, as long as the visionary is good, that could eliminate those cars shining directly into cars. And the bigger the buses or the vans or whatever,
Yeah.
they're even taller. So they're going to shine even more, which is a real negative to those houses. Believe me, I know, because 20 years ago, or 18 years ago, I guess it was, when I purchased the farm where I live, the city gave us a location for the driveway. I have two neighbors to this day who scream and holler and swear about the lights shining on their house. 18 years later. They'll eventually move, and maybe the new people won't. But it doesn't bother me much, but my wife, it bothers a lot. Yeah. So if you can help with that problem, if it were approved. But the city staff did not consider that at all, according to Mr. McFadden. Yeah. And the other problem that I have directly to the east, you have a fairly good-sized dog kennel. Mr. Urban runs that dog kennel. He was not notified of this meeting because it's too much distance. In the morning, I can hear his dogs when they're fed and they first get up. And late in the afternoon, depending on the day, I can hear his dogs. I can only imagine if there's a band playing up there or there's noise up there, what the dogs how, the distress it'll cost to those dogs, the amount of barking and the noise that we'll have from that in addition to that. So I'm a little concerned about that, and so is he. Like I say, he was not notified of this meeting, so he hopefully will come to the Plan Commission. Is there any plan for your son or your daughter-in-law to purchase a house and share in the good times and bad times close to this venue, or are they just gonna leave to go home and it's not their problem?
None of the residents that I'm aware of are interested in selling. So I
Well,
think,
this hasn't been approved yet.
what's that?
This hasn't been approved yet.
No, but I guess it's a moot question until
No, I
it's
just,
be for sale.
if it was, you know, there again, the owner should share in the wealth and.
Sure,
And the negatives of this too.
yeah.
And you did not address my question as to, I thought that this building was to be placed further to the north to eliminate taking so much cropland.
Yeah. No, we never had it to the north in any of our plans, so I don't know if I said something once that would have misled you. But that was always kind of the logical location for it in our eyes, anyway.
Does it take more cropland away in that location that could be saved if you moved it to the north?
Well, not much, because even if you look in the wooded areas, none of the wooded areas would, we just don't have that many acres and woods. So it's not like I don't know how you could save it. I mean, to the far north, it's such a steep hill, you couldn't even construct on that. So all you're talking about is perhaps the small area that you see right there that's wooded and
That is untilled,
that is untilled.
so that could have been used.
Yeah, it's probably less than an acre sitting right there, but, yeah. And I offhand, I can't even think of the topography there. It's probably potentially too steep as well, which had to be a consideration.
Your, as I recall that topography when I worked, we share equipment with Pat. Yes, there, as you get up higher on the hill, there's quite a bit of topography.
Yeah,
But actually, there's a hole right where, just to the north of where those trees are, there's a hole there, more than a flat area. So that certainly is something that could have been considered. You're thinking of approximately 100 venues or 100 opportunities
Yeah.
about.
potentially. I think, again, the focus initially would be on weddings.
Okay.
That's roughly 75.
Okay, so if that was, let's say it was 100, because that's in your,
Yep,
that's one every 4 days.
yep.
It's one every 4 days. So not much traffic is you, and don't forget, this isn't just the people coming there, it's the caterers, the band, all of the rest of the support staff that are increasing the traffic on that road too.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish you had addressed some of these other issues, because some of those things you and I talked about. And they're not anywhere in what you addressed.
And if I can think back to what you just mentioned, the easy one, you had asked about the driveway and parking lot, that's all blacktop.
Impervious.
Yeah.
Because impervious blacktop is different than blacktop.
Well, I don't know if it'd be impervious or not, but
Impervious has drain holes in it.
yeah. But that's where the engineering came in to do the erosion and control and stormwater management, so that's all addressed.
I appreciate that, but the engineers work for you.
But,
And
yeah,
the impervious part of it, if you didn't address it, they are not going to address it.
yeah.
So if that were, if you did get this approved, I would hope that would be a condition that it is all impervious blacktop. Because as you stated, the topography of this land is very sloping. And
And then to the north, yeah.
and from the north heading south,
Yeah.
basically, and
Yeah.
to the west, because that's where your drainage is, goes to the west, because that's
Yep.
where the creek is.
Yep.
And you're going to have a lot of area of blacktop that will increase the speed of your runoff, even though you do have a rain garden to the east that will take probably your eave troughs and that too. But does that water from the blacktop go to the east?
No, that'll go to the south, and then there's a retention pond,
South and east?
south and east, and so
That's what I'm talking about, south and east.
yeah,
So if your blacktop then all drains that way, that will help you. Impervious blacktop would also help you.
yeah.
So Mark, just to clarify, I think you may be asking for him to put in pervious blacktop. Impervious
Yeah,
is
you're
something
correct.
that the water
I
runs
stand
off
correct.
of, right?
It's the blacktop with holes in it.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Pervious, yep.
Yeah, okay. I think I had that squared away anyway.
Anyway,
but thanks.
I cannot support I support the concept, but I can't support the location.
Yeah.
I just can't. And I don't want to be labeled as, just to be perfectly clear, you and I were both vying for the purchase of that property. It was going to stay as agriculture. That's why I did not reach out to any of my neighbors, so that I couldn't have that thrown back in my face. And I wanted to make sure that I did not do any of that, that this stands on its own. So, but I personally, and my family, from being next door neighbors, I think the negatives for us will be too much for us to support.
No, you're consistent with everything we had said in our conversation, Mark, so.
Any further conversation?
And could I make a couple comments?
Yes, Wade?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, Fitchburg PD did have a chance to review this. If they did provide comments, they would have been addressed by planning staff. And I did want to read one comment by Amy, our committee member, who isn't feeling well tonight, so can't be here, but she, I'm just going to paraphrase her email. She says, basically her stance on the agenda item in question is to preserve as much agriculture as possible, and she does have concerns about location and traffic. So those are Amy's comments. And then just quickly, again, really what the committee is doing here today is making a recommendation to the Plan Commission. So, there'll be another step here, but just so people are aware of process, Plan Commission will make the ultimate approval on this request, so.
Thanks, Wade. Raj?
I think the architectural review that your plans they're really good. I mean, the building layout, you've addressed everything that we've talked about when we started to put a ordinance together for venues. You're going to have a place to take care of some of the produce. That was a big thing for us. I think that your architectural design to go with the area and the rural landscape is very good. I've had a little bit of a concern all along about the traffic. And I drove by there again today just to make sure I felt the same way. But Jeff, as you go to the east, that really bothers me, that curve that's there. There's a sharp curve. I mean, it's going to go, you go right out into a marsh. And, that could potentially be a real black eye on your operation if something goes wrong. So the traffic end of the thing has been a concern of mine. Even when you came to us some time ago, I was concerned about that. And so I have a hard time going with this. I just commend you on the design and everything that you've gone through on this, but I am concerned about the traffic. One other thing that I might mention to you, or an idea that you might want to use, is if this goes to, it'll go to planning, but I would, you know, as I mentioned earlier, that 300 feet is just, in my mind, not enough. It's not good PR. If you're going to want to get support, you need to go further out and find out really what's going on, especially to the east. Because when you come off of MM and you come across there where the kennel is and everything, I mean, I would think you'd want to know what they're thinking. And further to the west also, you know, to either get a negative or a positive on it for you. But that 300 feet thing bothered me enough of whether or not we really have a feeling of that community about this. So those are some of my thoughts, Jeff.
Randy?
Well, earlier I mentioned about noise, and we talked about that to the west, and then of course we incorporated to the south. But as I've listened to other committee members, and I've pulled it up on Google, and, you know, you just look at this, and you have a great concept here, but you've got a lot of winding country roads when you have traffic. I'm concerned about, there's a concern about guests leaving, let alone getting there. But I mean, if you're going to stay at a hotel that's off of Fish Hatchery, there are a lot of country roads, there's a lot of turns just to get to Fish Hatchery. And then if you're going east, as Roger pointed out, that's a pretty good sized curve there that you have some potential, I think there's some big potential conflicts with guests leaving that may have had alcohol. But I'm just not overly in support of this location. I mean, if you're off Fish Hatchery Road or off of maybe MM, a major road, to me it might be a better location.
I do think we can, you know, the traffic can be directed to the west. You know, it's a one turn onto Syene and a left turn on Lacey, and you're to Fish Hatchery, so it's not a lot of turning. And I think a lot of that can be done via the customers and how they communicate with their guests and how we communicate with their guests. And obviously there's licensed bartenders. They have responsibilities to alleviate people leaving there in bad conditions. And that's why I think in this current day, speaking of experience with my own children and their friends, is they never went anywhere without either a designated driver or a ride-sharing option. And I'm not saying everybody does that. I can't promise you that. But I do think there is a recognition these days that when you go to something like a wedding, you need to plan ahead and have a safe ride home. So that's my take.
Just as a follow-up to that statement, I agree with, at least you've taken it into consideration. My concern, though, going up Syene Road as far as traffic, I mean, as an alder, I am continuously contacted regarding speed on Syene, besides traffic and speed. And, you know, it is difficult to maintain some type of enforcement on Syene, but I would just hate to see that increase just because of the residents that are on Syene to begin with. So that's my experience, and I know those folks that live on Syene don't want to see a lot of increased traffic. So again, I don't know if I can support this.
Hey, thanks, Randy. Scott, we have one member who's remote today, Scott Lyman.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to just speak a little bit about some experience I've had with traffic. So there's a couple different wedding venues scattered across our county. And my experience with them is that when attendees leave these things, it's not like a concert. They're not getting let out at a certain time and there's a large influx of traffic leaving at one specific time. People come and go, which I think is something that we need to consider when it comes to the traffic. So it's not one big mass exodus. There's cars coming and going, minimal number of cars at the same time coming and going from this venue. The other thing with the roadway, yes, it's a windy, rural road. However, the thing that we can't forget is that we have to put responsibility on the operator of the vehicle. We've got all kinds of different taverns and things stuck in little nooks of our county that have roads that are very, I guess more dangerous than Burn Road. And that, the onus is on the operator of the vehicle. But I just wanted to kind of just share my thoughts and my experience with traffic. And as far as the venue itself goes, I think it would be great for the city of Fitchburg. So I wish you luck.
Thank you. Scott?
If there's no further discussion, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Motion to deny, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, for any further discussion? Wade, can we get a roll call on this?
Chair Kinney,
Nay. I'm sorry,
Vice-
I'm sorry, the motion is to deny. Aye.
aye, okay. Vice Chair Cohe,
Aye.
Alder Udell,
Aye.
George Broman,
Aye.
and Scott Lehman,
Nay.
and Mark Jones.
Aye.
All right, motion
Go ahead.
passes. The request, this is a recommendation to Plan Commission, and that's all. It will be Plan Commission's final decision on a conditional use, but our recommendation will go forward to them to deny.
All right. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We appreciate your time on this. All right, next item on the agenda is item 5B. I'm sorry. We need to address both the recommendation on both the conditional use and the ADR. So, Mark, I'm going to take that as your recommendation being on the conditional use, is that correct?
You are correct. It's for the conditional use.
Okay.
Was
We should,
item A.
yes, we should act on item B as well. Is there a motion with regard to item B?
I will make a motion to deny.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor of denying? Aye.
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 And against?
I'm just looking at, what is it? Can I get just a summary of what it is? I keep reading it, but I don't see the.
It's the architectural review of the structure, the location.
Yeah,
right away.
it's two separate items on the agenda, Scott, so we need two action.
I would stick to the nay because it's part of the first one, right? So that would make sense.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is 5C, update on rural broadband. I'll turn that over to Raj and Randy.
Yeah, we have no update at this point because of the holiday season. Our support person working on the broadband was transferred over to the tax department, and so I don't have any updates unless you do, Roger, at this point.
Well, we might reiterate a little bit about the meeting that we did have and
Sure, go ahead
where we're
on
headed
that.
a little bit. As you know, we put a survey out, And the survey was, we were quite satisfied with it, over 300 different returns. And where we're at right now is we don't know whether or not we have enough information to satisfy an application, or also whether we have really enough customer base to satisfy an application. So what we've done, or what we're in the process of doing, is to try to find somebody, and the person that is heading this up, Joyce Fry, is going to find somebody. She happens to have some contacts that might give us some guidance at the stage that we're at right now. There's no need for us to go on and spend a lot of time on something unless we really know whether we have got a chance at it. We've spent quite a bit of time on it already. So Randy and I and Joyce and Crosby, met. And we've kind of come to this conclusion, and that's where we're at. So we're waiting to take this next step. Hopefully, we will have enough customer base, and that's what we're talking about, to make this thing go, to expand broadband into this part of Fitchburg. Because without a doubt, we know there are some areas that are void of any high-speed network right now, and if we can tend it. So we're a little ways away from it yet, but that's where we're at right now. Correct, Randy?
You are correct.
Okay.
So Joyce is looking for a consultant then that would help us to determine whether or not
In
we've
essence,
got a case in applying for
Well,
it.
I guess you could use it as a consultant. She's looking for a municipality that has actually has gone through this process,
Oh, okay.
and to maybe provide a little direction, and so that, we all stay on a straight and narrow.
Okay. Great. And do you know what the time frame is for that?
No, that's why I said no updates. I just don't know the time frame on it, because she's been pulled away. And she's back on again, but we just haven't been able to connect up with her. We wanted to give her a little time to get back into her role with community development. I think she was in that role of the tax department for about a month, so.
Okay.
Well, it's obvious that one of our committee members is in need of some high-speed data. Otherwise, she'd be with us tonight.
She is not the only one.
And she does not have any internet access, period. Satellite is her only option.
Yeah.
So,
She can't get through the phone line?
yeah, you can call in last week, and it might get there by this week.
That's how we have it, through the phone line, and it's not great.
I doubt you use it for your work.
No, not really. It has to be something pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not fast.
It's just not, it's,
We have it, but it's
the
not.
the dial-up is technology that's what, Randy?
It'll
30 years old?
Yeah,
At least.
that's right, 30 years old, yep.
So.
Dial-up modem?
The dial-up is, and,
I didn't know that was still out there.
well, yeah, and then the other thing that Randy and I can address is that the wire size in the rural area
Oh, sure.
from 30 years ago is so tiny that it won't conduct it. It just is, it just, you're lucky enough it even conducts it, it's poor. So, and that's I think we still have to apply, because, let's face it, if it were conducive for the utilities to provide it, it'd already be there.
Well, that was going to be my question. How many providers are there? Is there a limited number?
They aren't
or
gonna,
is
they aren't
there-
gonna provide it, so it's up to the city to supplement it
With a grant?
with a grant to
But
make it more conducive, and that's been my point all along, Because the existing providers, the first thing they're gonna say is, nah, not enough.
But still, even if they got the grant, would you then have to have bids on, between the providers to,
Oh,
so that,
yeah, and
I
that's
guess that would
when-
be my question was, are we limited on providers, or is there enough providers there that would compete for
I think
this?
that's where it gets complicated, and that's why you wanted Joyce to reach out to another municipality to,
See, yeah, to see how they work that
In our
out.
Right.
case, there are more than, in our
That's what I
city,
would think.
there are more providers. We're
Then
kind of split
Are there
between,
rural areas, there's
or
less?
some of the big companies and some of there are some providers, but there's more than just one or two.
well, I think as you know, Mark, there's different wire centers, they came up from Oregon, some that came from the west, and I think that was the old
Rona,
Verona, or Mount Vernon, maybe?
Mount Vernon.
Now it's
You're correct.
TDS or whatever, or maybe it's GTE, but anyway.
No, it was Mount Vernon.
Ameritech.
He came from the south.
Yeah, Ameritech
Now
from the,
it's split.
okay, so Ameritech then from to the north, and, so it's all unfortunate, we don't have just one to be able to say, well, let's reach out and,
But we
And-
do have one cable provider, which is Charter.
correct, so that, that might be the answer as well. but-
So I think we still have to be tenacious in trying to get a grant if we can. And then we can go to those providers and say, well, we can help. Is there any way we can at least get some increase in some of it? We may not get it all, but at least in some of it. So kudos to you guys for trying.
All right, thanks for the update. I think this is something we should keep on the agenda, perhaps for the next agenda item, which is the annual listening session. I understand that there's concerns that the city has raised about having this event in February because of COVID issues. So what is the idea here, Wade, that we're hoping that things are going to peak and shoot for March, or what's the thought?
Yeah, so I've been directed to inform this committee that we shouldn't be holding a listening session off-site in February. Certainly if the committee wants to meet again in February, we can assess the situation and potentially plan for March. But yeah, that's kind of the direction I've been given at this point, so.
Well, rather than have a meeting in February when there may not be anything else for the agenda necessarily, I guess I'd suggest that if there's anything we need to do from a planning standpoint, or maybe identifying a possible date in March that we're targeting and any discussion that we need with regard to that, we could cover that now so that we don't necessarily have to meet in February.
Well, I think March is your last window. Because by April, Roger and I talked about this earlier, by April, you're into the end of the crop season.
Yep.
So if you don't do it by March, then you're probably not going to be able to.
Wade, when's the third Tuesday in March?
That looks like,
Tell me it's not St. Patrick's Day.
the 15th, yeah, I don't know,
You don't care.
15th, yep.
15th is the third.
The Ides of March, okay,
No. It's Thursday is St. Patty's Day that week.
good. Do we want to target the 15th then, if we're able to do it at that point?
Yeah, we can target it.
I don't know why not.
Let's just put it in reserve for the moment.
Yeah, we're gonna, we'll have to try to get the location rescheduled.
You got a couple options.
We can go ahead and talk to them about it tentatively.
Yeah.
Because if we come up to the 15th and it's a go, you're not gonna get, it may be booked.
Yeah, but you do have a plan B. We go back to where we always were.
Oh, yeah, we could go back to Durford's, but we
We can
could,
do the other, that's great.
yeah,
But if we can't, so we do have a plan B.
yeah.
So what's Plan A?
It'd be,
To
Mackenzie's.
reschedule at McKenzie's,
At the McKenzie Barn, okay.
yeah.
Well, I think that would be great. I think people
I
haven't
agree.
seen that, and they would probably like to see it.
Oh, it's,
I agree.
And it's a Tuesday night, so unless she has classes or something that's going on,
yeah,
maybe we can at least tentatively.
we'll reach out to her
See
the
what's
next day
available.
here.
Yep.
And see what's available and everything. We'll try to hit for that. Maybe you might even have a couple alternate dates that they can throw at us.
Cool. Very good.
Roger, are there any other planning things that we've dealt with in these in the past that we need to go over
Yes,
here?
yeah. Yeah, there's, with them, all the physical, the chairs, the tables that we've had to have before, this is all furnished, that. The only thing that we have done on our own is maybe the coffee, and the Mark has always brought a cheese plate.
Cheese and crackers.
And,
Support the dairy.
yeah, and there will be a charge, not a large charge, but there will be a charge that some way or other we'll need to discuss on how we want to cover that.
I'll donate some for that.
Yeah, I think, I think we personally can probably handle that if that's all right. It isn't a lot, $125 or something like that.
So you're not suggesting a cover charge that we charge people at the door to get in? $2 and
If we could get away with it, yes.
you get a plastic cup?
Cover charge, but no dancers.
It's a free will donation.
But those are the only things that we would have to work out. And I think we're all in communication enough to be able to figure out what we need and everything.
Just an FYI again, we are doing some estate planning in our lives, and there will be a proposal that comes before Ag and Rural and Plan in the council. Once it gets through, we're going through that process. So surveyors are now doing some surveying. I'm purchasing some more land from the south, and so there's something will come before us. Nothing will change in our world, or for the titles stay the same. It just creates, it takes the two house lots and creates them. But they still say in the trust name in the agriculture part, and it's only a financial thing because of the.
Okay, so we'll see that at
It will either be for a February meeting or a March meeting.
okay. So we'll play by ear whether or not we have a February meeting. We're not aware right now of any agenda items, so I think we'll assume we probably will not have one in February.
Yep.
If something comes up, then we will, but tentatively plan on the
March.
listening
15th.
session in March in the next
Ides
meeting
of
then.
March.
So one question in terms of planning for that March 15th session, how far in advance of that does the committee need to know whether or not it's a go? that like
As
a
soon as
month?
possible, I guess. I mean, I would assume that this really depends on what happens
Right.
with numbers, right, Wade?
Well,
mean,
yeah,
if-
I guess a better question is what's the shortest window before we have to cancel? Is it
A week,
3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month?
1 week,
Well,
One
how
week.
do,
1 week.
what about as far as getting it out to the press, to
That's-
the Fitchburg
That's what I'm
Star?
saying. I mean, I would think generally speaking, we want at least 3 weeks, if not a month to, if we don't, by mid-February or late February, we should have a definite confirmation if we can't, whether or not we can go or not. So I would,
Okay, that's fair.
What's the
You know what I mean?
deadline for getting it into the Fitchburg Star?
I believe, let's see. So does that come out on the second Friday? Is that right, of the month? You guys know? Or does anybody know when the paper comes out?
I think it was the second.
We just received it.
I think I just received it.
So I think the deadline is the first Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I can confirm that. So I
think
guess
you're
if we,
correct,
know-
Wade.
if we,
But I think it
So if
should
we-
be in that.
Yeah,
We should plan to get it in that.
yeah, I agree with George. I think we'll just kind of,
So we need to know by the
we need to know,
third week in February.
yeah, so that we can get it into the Star if it's happening.
so by March 4th, which would be that first Friday, by March 4th, we would need to know.
Who makes, who makes this decision, Wade?
City administrator.
Okay,
Very good.
let them know what our deadline is then.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, would it have to be the third week in March?
We could adjust that.
We could adjust that.
Right, yes, the listening session does not have to be
Yeah, we could adjust that.
that date, that's just our normal time. And then if we have something else on the agenda that then needs to go to Plan Commission, it's good to do
We'd
it.
have to have, we'd have to have a meeting then in March if it has to go to Plan Commission.
Yes,
by that date. So
yes, yes.
I think by the end of February, we'll know one way or the other.
I would hope that it'd be a goal for a March get-together. Randy,
Your fingers crossed.
can you make sure that the mayor and is notified of what our thinking is on those dates?
Yeah,
And,
no problem, yes.
Administrator.
and the administrator would be there. I don't know if we're going to have any, will the candidates for running for mayor be announced by then?
No,
No, there's,
there is
mayor's
no.
not up for another year,
Okay, that's right.
So there-
It's a year from
You
now.
have no,
and I'm unopposed,
Yeah.
right, so
so.
Okay.
And, you know,
that was a separate meeting.
Yeah.
It was 2 meetings before. We have to always state that.
you what?
That would have to be a separate event.
That was a separate meeting.
Oh,
We
Ag
can-
and Rural met and then
do
it
that.
adjourned.
oh,
Yeah.
That was a separate meeting.
oh, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. We close it off and then we go to public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
So,
explain that to me, since I've not been through that process, because COVID's always been
right,
in the,
the Ag and Rural Fair is non-political.
right,
So if you're going to have a political function, it had to be after the Ag and Rural as a separate meeting. And that's what we did last time. The Ag and Rural, Wade and some of the people left. So there could be no confusion that it was tied with that.
okay,
We had a break between and we did it like a candidates forum,
sure.
but it had to be separate.
So this time.
Clearly defined as separate.
So, since I'm unopposed, it's going to be strictly a meeting going forward. I mean, just like what we would have here, but
Right.
additional discussion,
It would,
From the
it's a
community.
non-issue.
sure.
One, you know, we've had, the last one we had, there was an election, and that went really well. You know, after we adjourned, we went to public. Worked out, and that's what we would do here. I was set in on a discussion with the new police chief. And, boy, I was really impressed. This guy is, in my mind, going to bring some good stuff.
Sharp guy.
What better place to introduce a new police chief at this meeting
Yeah, great
for the
suggestion.
rural area?
Yep, I agree with you.
So again, you know, we definitely want the mayor there, and maybe him, and
We have a new city administrator since, do you,
fine, we should introduce these people, at
Yeah.
least those two plus the mayor, for sure.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Wade, can you invite them? Great.
Sure.
Okay, Wade, any report from your department?
Yeah, so I missed the approval of minutes. Do folks remember who motioned and seconded at the beginning of the meeting, just so I can get that for the minutes?
Who moved in favor of approving the minutes?
I moved.
Mark? In the
Mark?
second?
Okay.
I second.
Randy seconded.
Okay, great, thanks. Yep,
Glad
and
you
that's,
remember that.
I don't have anything else.
Okay,
Anything else from the department?
I guess, yeah, maybe one note, I believe we'll be getting a new director, city planner type, at the end of the month. I don't know if her name has officially been released yet, but, I think she'll fit in well with the city, and, we'll let you guys know when she's on board, so.
I hope when she's on board, if she had a little time, she can also join us some night.
Sure. Yep.
So,
All right, thanks, Wade. Any announcements? If not, motion to adjourn.
motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Can I ask a question of you guys?